The sun had barely risen over Chicago, but inside Harpo Studios, something was already different. The usual buzz of cables being checked and makeup brushes flicking across skin was there, but it felt quieter, softer, like the entire building had taken a deep breath and was holding it. The crew moved slower, spoke in hushed tones, stealing glances at one another, unsure why the air felt heavier than usual. Oprah arrived a little earlier than normal. Her walk was calm, steady, but there was a subtle tension in her shoulders. For the past several weeks, she'd been carrying something unseen, questions she hadn't shared with anyone, even herself. Doubt had started to creep into corners she thought were solid. It wasn't dramatic or loud, just a slow, quiet kind of questioning that came late at night and lingered through her mornings. Today's guest was Jonathan Roumie. Most people knew him as the actor who played Jesus in The Chosen, but Oprah hadn't booked him just because of his role. Something about his presence felt different. Watching him in interviews, she could feel a stillness behind his words, a kind of depth that couldn't be faked. And even though she didn't know exactly why, she had a strong feeling that this episode wouldn't follow the script. Not the one on paper, and not the one she thought she'd written for her life. In the green room, Jonathan sat alone, his coat folded neatly beside him. Inside that coat, wrapped in a worn piece of purple cloth, was a Bible, not just any Bible. It had belonged to his grandmother, a woman who had lived through war, loss, and exile, and who had carried her faith through all of it like a torch. In the dark. She'd passed away 3 years ago, but Jonathan still felt her near. In fact, it was her dream, the one she shared with him just before her death, that had led him here. In that dream, she told him he would meet a woman with a voice that reached millions, a woman who would be searching for God without realizing it, a woman who would need something that only he could give. She didn't say when or where, just that he would know. And today, he did. As the crew started their final countdown and the red lights on the cameras blinked to life. A strange calm washed over him. Not the calm of someone about to act, but of someone arriving right on time. Oprah adjusted her microphone. The audience was in place. The lights had a softness to them, almost golden. Neither she nor Jonathan knew exactly what was about to happen, but somewhere deep in their bones they both felt it. Today was going to be different. The lights were steady and the cameras were rolling, but something about the way Oprah leaned into her first question told Jonathan this wasn't going to be a surface-level conversation. She wore her signature expression, kind, composed, always. In control, but her eyes betrayed a kind of tiredness. Not physical exhaustion, but something deeper, like someone who had been quietly carrying a weight no one could see. She asked how he felt playing Jesus, how he handled the pressure of representing something so sacred to millions of people. Jonathan didn't hesitate. He looked her straight in the eye and said softly, "I don't carry the weight. It carries me." The room shifted. It was subtle, but real. A few people in the audience leaned forward. Oprah's head tilted slightly, the way it does when something catches her off guard. He didn't try to impress. He wasn't rehearsed. His words landed heavy but honest. As the interview went on, he began to share more about the years of silence. In his career, the seasons where he doubted if he mattered at all. There was a time, he told her, when he considered walking away from acting altogether. His prayers had started to sound like questions shouted into the dark. But then, one night, something happened. He dreamed of his grandmother, who had passed away 2 years earlier. In the dream, she was clear and full of strength. She told him there was a woman he would meet, a woman who had given so much to the world, but secretly wondered if her time had passed. She told him this woman would need a reminder, something that had been written long before she even knew she needed it. Oprah's hands folded in her lap, but her fingers moved, restless. She smiled, but the edges of her mouth trembled slightly. Jonathan paused, sensing the shift. Then Oprah did something unexpected. Her voice dropped. "I need to be honest," she said quietly, looking down at her hands. "I've been waking up every night at 3 a.m. And I keep asking God, are you done with me?" She glanced up at him, her eyes shiny with the kind of truth that has been held in too long. "After my mom died, I lost something I didn't know I could lose. I thought I was built strong enough to carry anything, but this? She paused, shaking her head. Everything I've built. Sometimes it feels empty now. There was no applause, no music cues, no audience reactions, just silence thick and holy. Oprah had spent decades being the voice of reassurance for millions, but in this moment she sounded like someone who needed to be reminded of her own worth. Jonathan sat quietly, listening. He knew now this was the moment his grandmother had described. This was the woman with the voice, the one who reached millions, the one who needed to be reminded that she was still seen, still chosen, but he didn't reach for the Bible yet. Not yet. He felt it in his spirit. There was more she needed to release. Oprah looked at him again, her tone low, vulnerable. I've interviewed priests, pastors, monks. I've read every spiritual book you can think of, but I still feel like I'm standing on the outside of faith. Looking through a window I don't know how to open. She didn't cry, not yet, but her voice cracked, just enough to reveal the pain behind it. The audience sat frozen. A few people in the front row covered their mouths. Even the camera operators had stopped moving. They'd seen hundreds of interviews, thousands of guests, but never this. There was no script here, no pre-approved segment notes. Just a woman, powerful and iconic, telling the world she wasn't sure anymore if she still belonged to something bigger than herself. Jonathan's hands stayed folded. The Bible remained in his coat. The moment was still blooming. Pain, honesty, and the weight of years being laid bare in front of strangers. A sacred kind of unraveling was happening right there on stage. Not just in Oprah, but in everyone who had ever doubted, who had ever wondered if the silence in their lives meant they had been forgotten. And Jonathan knew before healing comes, there has to be a breaking. This was that breaking, quiet, raw, holy. Jonathan sits still for a moment, his eyes fixed on Oprah, then slowly leans forward. His voice isn't loud, but it carries weight, the kind of calm that hushes everything else around it. What if that window you felt on the outside of, he says, his tone quiet but sure, was never meant to be opened from your side? Oprah doesn't respond right away. She just stares, her eyes wide and uncertain, like she's balancing on the edge of something she can't name. What if someone's been knocking from the other side this whole time? He continues, waiting for you to stop searching, and just receive. The audience is completely still. Not a cough, not a shuffle, not a whisper. Oprah blinks. As if the words are trying to land, but haven't quite made it all the way in. Jonathan gently reaches into his coat. His movements are slow, respectful, no drama, just purpose. He pulls out the Bible, old, soft, wrapped in purple cloth that's been folded and unfolded too many times to count. His hands rest on it for a second before he looks up again. This was my grandmother's, he says. She never spoke much English, but she had a way of seeing things, of knowing things. He glances down at the Bible. She couldn't read most of what was in here, but she could read hearts. And before she died, she wrote something inside. Something for you. He hands it to Oprah. Her hands hesitate in the air, fingers trembling slightly before she finally takes it. The moment she touches the leather cover, her breath catches. There's no way to explain it, but something in her chest tightens and warms at the same time. She looks at Jonathan and he nods. Open it to Psalm 139, he tells her. With shaky fingers, she flips through the old pages. The paper is thin and yellowed around the edges, and then her eyes stop. She goes completely still. For Oprah, she reads out loud, barely above. A whisper. January 29th, 1978. Her fingers freeze on the page. Her mouth opens slightly, but the words don't come right away. She looks up, confused, stunned. That's my birthday, she says. That single quotes my exact birthday. She looks back down at the ink. It's faded, but clear. Jonathan doesn't rush her. He lets the moment settle. Then, slowly, she notices something else in the margins. A short prayer, written in careful handwriting. She reads it out loud, tears starting to collect in her voice. Dear God, please help the woman with the beautiful voice find her way back to you. She will doubt herself after her mother goes home to you. When that dark night comes, send her an angel. Her voice cracks at the word mother. Her face twists, not in pain but in recognition. Her hand moves to her heart as if to steady herself. "The night my mother died," she whispers, more to herself than to anyone else. This is talking about that exact night. People in the audience begin quietly crying. Some are covering their mouths, others clutching each other's hands. Oprah turns another page, noticing the purple ribbon sticking out of the book. She opens to that section. There, on the very last page, is a letter written in the same hand, but the date is different. Her breath stops. "March 15th, she says. That's the day. That's the day my mother died." Her hands are shaking now. She begins to read the letter, barely able to speak through the emotion. "My dear daughter Oprah, today your mother came home to us, and she asked me to finish what I started. She told me to tell you that every question you ask God at her bedside has been heard. You think your greatest work is behind you, but child, it's just beginning. You are not just a talk show host, you are a prophet." Oprah sets the Bible in her lap, both hands covering her mouth as the tears fall. Not quietly. These are deep, body-shaking sobs, the kind that come when something deep inside finally breaks open, the kind of crying that feels like both grief and healing at once. She leans forward, elbows on her knees, unable to speak. Jonathan watches her, eyes full of something beyond emotion, something closer to peace. "She didn't just write that letter for you," he says gently. "She prepared it. She waited. God waited." Oprah finally looks up, her face wet, her voice small. "This changes everything," she says. "All this time, I thought I was wandering alone. I thought maybe it was over." Jonathan nods. "It was never over. You were just being prepared." The audience doesn't move. No one breathes too loudly. What just happened didn't feel like a segment of a talk show. It felt like a private message sent through time and tears, delivered right when it was needed most. Oprah pulls the Bible to her chest and holds it there, as if afraid to let it go. The pain, the doubt, the questions that had haunted her for months, they hadn't just been answered. They had been heard long before she even asked them, and somehow that truth made everything feel new again. Jonathan takes a breath, not because he's unsure, but because he wants the words to land exactly the way they should. His voice drops just slightly, soft but steady. "Oprah," he says, "what if that window you've been staring through wasn't meant to be open from your side?" She looks at him, trying to understand, trying to hold back the wave that's been rising inside her since the moment this interview began. He doesn't stop. What if someone's been knocking on the other side for years? And what if all this time he's been waiting not for you to keep searching, but to simply receive? She blinks, not fast, not dramatically, just enough to show she's caught off guard, not by him, but by how much the words feel like they belong to her. Jonathan's hand moves slowly toward his jacket. The studio feels smaller now, like something invisible has drawn the walls in tighter, pressing everyone closer to the moment. He reaches into the inside pocket and pulls out a bundle, wrapped in an old, soft piece of purple cloth. His fingers press it gently, like he's touching a piece of memory, not just paper and fabric. "This belonged to my grandmother," he says, voice barely above a whisper. "She left Lebanon in the 1950s. She couldn't speak much English, but she could read hearts." He looks down at the cloth. "And before she passed, she told me something. She told me there would come a day when I'd sit across from a woman with a voice known around the world, and that she would need this." He holds it out. Oprah doesn't move right away. Her hands hover, hesitant, like she knows the second she takes it, something inside her might break. She finally reaches out, her fingers trembling. The moment her palms touch the leather, she gasps. Her breath catches in her throat. The Bible is old, the cover worn smooth, but it radiates something warm, something she can't explain. Her fingers tighten around it like she's afraid it'll disappear. "Turn to Psalm 139, Jonathan says gently. She opens the Bible, her hands shaky but careful. She flips through the pages slowly, then suddenly stops. Her eyes land on a short line of faded blue ink scribbled in the margins. 2 words, "For Oprah," and underneath a date. January 29th, 1978. Her mouth falls open. "That's my birthday." She whispers, "That's my actual birthday." Her eyes start to shine, disbelief turning into something else, recognition. Jonathan doesn't speak. He just watches, steady and present. She stares at the name again, her fingers lightly brushing the ink. Then she sees the rest. In that same handwriting, a prayer is written along the margin next to the psalm. "Dear God, please help the woman with the beautiful voice find her way back to you. She will doubt herself after her mother goes home to you. When that dark night comes, send her an angel." Oprah's body tightens, like the air has been pulled from the room. Her mouth opens, but nothing comes out. She closes her eyes for just a moment, holding back the tears that now come too quickly to stop. Her shoulders begin to shake slowly at first, then harder. The quiet sobs that follow aren't dramatic. They're deep, old, familiar, the kind of crying that happens when someone finally lets go of everything they've been holding inside for too long. She looks up at Jonathan. Her voice is hoarse, almost broken. "This is the night she died," she says. "This is the exact night my mom passed." She stares at the Bible like it's alive, like it knows her in ways nothing else ever has. Then she notices something else, a small purple ribbon peeking out near the back. She flips to the page it marks and finds a letter, folded once, tucked neatly in the crease. Her hands shake harder as she unfolds it. At the top, one line in the same familiar script. "March 5th, 10th, the day your mother came home to us." Her lips tremble. "That's the day she died," she breathes. And then she begins to read. "My dear daughter Oprah, today your mother came home to us, and she asked me to finish what I started. She told me to tell you that every question you ask God at her bedside has been heard. You think your greatest work is behind you, but child, it's just beginning. You are not just a talk show host. You are a prophet." Oprah lowers the letter to her lap, both hands pressed flat on top of it. Her body is still now, quiet, but her chest rises and falls in steady waves. She closes her eyes and lets the words settle inside her. The silence in the studio is full, thick with something sacred. She finally speaks, her voice so soft it's almost a whisper. "This changes everything." Jonathan nods once. He doesn't need to say anything more. The Bible, the name, the prayer, the letter, it's all already said what needed to be said. Oprah hugs the Bible to her chest. Not like a prop, not like a gesture. Like someone clinging to something she forgot she was missing. She looks up one more time, eyes wet but clear. For the first time in a long time, she's not carrying the moment. She's letting it carry her. The room doesn't make a sound. Not a breath, not a cough. Even the smallest shuffles have gone still. The kind of quiet that doesn't just mean silence, it means something sacred just happened. Something people will talk about for the rest of their lives. Oprah stands slowly, the Bible clutched tightly to her chest as if her whole body knows. It's holding more than paper and ink. Her face isn't just tear-streaked, it's changed. Softer, lighter, like something heavy has finally let go. She looks out at the audience and then turns to the camera. Her voice is steady, but there's emotion in every word. "For 30 years, she says, I've told you to live your best life, but today I learned something deeper. I learned that love doesn't die, that the prayers people whisper for us even after they're gone, they still live, that what feels like silence from God might just be Him waiting for the right moment to speak." Jonathan steps beside her, quietly. He doesn't speak, not yet. He knows the moment belongs to her, and she's walking through it with a clarity that can't be taught. Oprah looks down at the Bible again, then back at the lens. "This story isn't just mine," she says. "It's yours. If God can reach across years, across countries, across generations to write my name in this book, then He's doing something for you too. Right now you might not see it yet. You might still be in the waiting, but I'm telling you, your name is already written." She flips to the back of the Bible. Her voice softens as she reads aloud the final note left by Jonathan's grandmother. "Tell them their waiting has not been wasted. Tell them their pain has been purposeful. Tell them their angel is coming." She closes the Bible slowly, holding it close. "You heard that," she says. "You, the person watching who feels forgotten. The one who thinks the worst day of your life meant the end of your story. It didn't. It just opened the door for something holy to walk in. Several audience members are wiping their faces. Some are holding hands, others holding their chests. The energy in the room isn't just emotional, it's cleansing. Jonathan finally speaks, his voice almost a whisper. Amen. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's enough. Oprah turns to him, eyes full of peace and something stronger certainty. She reaches out and gently takes his hand. Will you pray with me? She asks, not for show, not for the cameras, but for every soul sitting alone at home, wondering if God still sees them. They bow their heads. The room joins them. It's not a scripted prayer. There's no performance here. Just two people standing in the middle of something real, offering quiet words to the one who has been listening the whole time. God, Jonathan says, thank you for proving that love outlives us, that purpose never fades, and that the hearts waiting in the dark are never forgotten. Let every person who feels lost feel found today. When the prayer ends, Oprah lifts her head, face glowing, not with stage lights, but with something from inside. She turns to the camera one. Last time, your miracle isn't far away, she says, her voice trembling. It's already here. It's been here all along, wrapped in someone's prayer, waiting for you to believe again. As the credits begin to roll, she stands beside Jonathan, not as a host next to a guest, but as someone who just remembered who she really is. Around them, the studio is still, quiet, and full of something that doesn't need to be named. It just needs to be felt. And for the people who watched it happen, it will never be forgotten.